Hey everyone, welcome to podcast episode number 3. I just want to shout out to Matt again for another suggestion for another video. And basically, this whole video is going to be me talking about the suggestion that he had. And Matt asked what my source of motivation is, especially after losing trades or, when you're in a slump, maybe have like a couple losers in a row. And there's a lot of things, and I think the biggest thing is just knowing that trading it's my passion, right? Like it's not like I have to remind myself. It is my passion. Just for example, I like my whole life I'm like, oh, I want to wake up early every day. Like, how do I wake up early? I'd try to force myself. I'd set an alarm at 7 a.m. Oh, I'm gonna get up. I'm gonna have a great day. It's gonna be an awesome day. I'm gonna get so much stuff done. I'm so motivated. And then it would come time, my alarm would go off, and I'd be like, I'm going back to bed. But ever since I found that trading was my passion, I started getting into it, and I became really passionate about it. That's what helped me get out of bed, right? Like it's like the key to get out of bed early and to start your day early and be positive is to have something that you're motivated to do and have a passion, right? It doesn't matter what it is. If it's knitting, it doesn't matter. Like sewing, it'll get you out of bed early. So, I mean, I know I'm going off on a little bit of a tangent here, but hopefully you get the idea of that. So, when I lose a couple trades, I'm like, it's tough losing a trade or a few trades in a row, but I always remember that this is my passion, and I can't stop loving it. Like, there's been times where I've had like 5 losers in a row, and do I get mad? Absolutely, but I just remind myself that this is my passion, and this is what I feel like. Maybe I don't know if it's what I'm born to do, but it's easy to get back into it. Once I start looking at the charts, I just fall back in love with it, and that's kind of the main thing that I always remember when I'm in a slump. I have a bunch of things written down here. So this is my number 2, reminding myself how much I hate my job. Yeah, so I still go to work. I do take some more time off recently. Because I just feel like I don't know if I want to say I deserve it, but I have been taking more time off. But every time I go in there, it's not that bad. I definitely am not complaining. It's definitely a very comfortable job. It's good money. Like there's no complaints there. But I always said to myself, I don't want to be too comfortable. I want to be able to do other things. I don't want to work for somebody else my whole life. I want to do my own thing. And, I'm willing to lose and fail in order to succeed one day. And that's a huge factor that you have to realize that, with anything, like just another example, my own personal example. I'm not a welder, but I have my welding tickets. I'm a pretty decent welder. I've done a lot of jobs welding and made some decent money doing that, which has actually funded my trading account. And do you think I just picked up the welding rod and just started welding perfectly at first? No, like I put a lot of work. I actually went to a private school that cost me quite a bit amount of money to learn how to properly weld, and it was really worth it for me. And you know, it it definitely helped knowing with the trading compared to the welding. It helps to know that like my first welding for the first couple months was horrible. It was absolute dog shit. So it's kind of the same idea with trading. I think it takes a little longer for trading, but it's just something to keep in mind. Like think about anything that you've done in life. It definitely takes a while, right? So it's super important to remember that. And take your job if you don't like your job, or even if it's not that bad. Just remember: do you want to do that for your whole life? Do you want to be financially free and have freedom and to do what you want to do, right? So that's a huge. That might actually be my number one factor, is just taking what I do every day, the things I don't like to do, and realizing if I put in the work, if I accept that I'm going to lose and I'm going to fail in order to succeed one day, that it'll all pay off in the long run. Here's another thing that also kind of relates to that. Most success stories start with the entrepreneur losing a lot or almost everything. Just for example, I don't know if you guys know who Manny Kojman is. I think that's how you say his last name. Manny Kojman. He's on Instagram. He's got a lot of like hypercars and supercars and stuff. He's a real estate guy, and I remember hearing a video of him like, "Oh, I lost $25,000 my first deal or something." I'm like, "Holy shit!" Like, most people would lose that 25 grand and be like, "All right, I'm out. I'm never doing this again." And he kept going and kept going. And I mean, I suggest YouTubing him or going on Instagram and checking him out. Like he's got like 20 hypercars and shit. He's just extremely successful. Not that cars make you successful, right? But it's pretty obvious that he used that loss of $25,000 and just used it as motivation. And, that's pretty crazy. I definitely haven't lost $25,000 trading, but I can only imagine, right? Um, Another example is, I don't know if you guys know who Robert Kiyosaki is. He wrote the book Rich Dad Poor Dad. I listen to his podcast every day, or every day he releases a new one, and he talked about how he lost a whole gold mine. I'm pretty sure it was to the Chinese government. Him and his wife made like a gold mine, and the Chinese government just took it. And so that he could have easily wrapped it up and be like, all right, screw this. I'm not doing anything else. I'm gonna go find a 9 to 5 job. No more risk. So yeah, so most success starts with failure. These guys lost tens of thousands of dollars, and it makes me realize that I can lose a few hundred or $1,000 in order to learn to get better. So another thing is journaling and looking at the trade after the fact in order to help you see what you did right and what you did wrong. That's a huge factor because even though I talked about this I think in my last podcast, but even if you lose, it could have been a good trade. You could have just made a small error that you'll fix. So sometimes I will lose and I'll assess the trade in my journal and I'll realize that it was a good trade and that my analysis was actually correct. And, that kind of helps me pull the trigger on the next trade. Last one here actually there's a couple more. My new way of charting in the last, month or so, keeping zones and more focus on trend lines and all that stuff and going back in time as far as I can to track all of the zones. I've done this on all my major pairs on the monthly, weekly, and the daily, and it takes a lot of work. It's about like an hour and a half for each pair, but it definitely pays off. I highly suggest doing that. And when I do that, I see the market working the same way over and over and over again. So when I lose, it's easy to remind myself that this strategy works, and that maybe it's just a slump. Maybe it's just a loser because we will always lose. It's like a casino, right? Like the casino. Let's just say they're open for 24 hours. They might lose that first 3 hours. They might be down, but they know that they have a winning system, right? So when I go back in time and I look at all my charts, and I do all the chart work, on the monthly, weekly, daily, like I said, and I see the market working the same way over and over and over and over again by trapping retail traders, it helps. It just it's a reminder, and then I consider that, and then I journal my trade and be like, okay, this is the exact same setup I've seen. Just got stopped out of it. It was an emotional candle or whatever it may be. Maybe I drew it the wrong way, but I'll fix it. So that's a huge factor. And the last thing is, I played hockey my entire life, and I don't know if anybody here is familiar with hockey, but I am Canadian, so hockey is pretty big here. And I was a pretty decent hockey player. I'm not tooting my own horn or anything. I'm just trying to explain to you guys. And I was a pretty good hockey player. But I never took practice seriously at all, and that's like my biggest regret in life. I don't really have regrets, but I do at the same time. But that's a huge factor for me. Is I never really I never took practice seriously. Obviously I went to practice and I did practice, but it wasn't like I wasn't really thinking like I'm at practice. This is for me to get better. So. And then I was playing pretty high-level hockey, and there was the ability to get like drafted to the OHL, the Ontario Hockey League, and there's a lot of scouts, and scouts are just like guys that come from an Ontario Hockey League team to watch, and in order to draft you. And I'm not saying I would have got drafted or anything. I'm not like a super big guy, like I'm only like 150 pounds now, so I'm not saying I would have made it anywhere or anything, but I never really put in the work. And I kind of always regret that. Like, it's always like, oh, maybe I would have been, playing some high-level hockey. Or, I'm not saying I would have went to professional at all. I'm not suggesting that at all. But I'm saying I never know now. Now I have no ability to know if that's possible because I never really put in the work. And why I'm saying this is because I consider that after every time I lose or when I'm doing the chart work, I'm like, this is it. I'm not doing the same thing I did with my quote unquote hockey career. I'm putting in the work. I want to do this. Like, this is what I want to do. So yeah, I just consider that, that hockey story. Consider it with trading that, I'm putting in the work. This is what I want to do. I'm not going to fail like I did with hockey, even though I didn't really fail. I have a lot of great memories, but I don't know if I'm making any sense. I'm just trying to take this seriously. I don't want to have another thing like this go to waste. A couple losers. It's easy to be like, all right, I'm done. I don't want that. I don't want the same thing. So that's a huge factor for me with that. And yeah, that pretty much sums everything up. Thanks for the question, Matt. I like doing this one. And leave another question or comment down below. Anybody. All right, cheers.